Well, one of the most important teachers in my life was Arthur Morgan. Now, Arthur Morgan was a very interesting historical figure. He was once head of the TVA, and he was the one who set up Antioch's cooperative education system, where the students would actually go and work and get credit for that. And this was a kind of a pioneering thing that he did when he was at Antioch. When I went there, I was getting my master's degree in teaching, and I was working in the community to start a recreation center. And I had had some meetings. Now, I had met with Morgan earlier, and he had suggested that I get funding for this idea, which I had done, and suggested the way in which I would go about trying to develop this recreation center, which was actually the first interracial recreation center in Yellow Springs, Ohio. But we tried to get a particular building, a church in that town, which had a whole wing that wasn't being used. And the church turned us down. And so I walked into his office, and he was now about 95 years old. And I explained this to him, and as I talked to him, he slowly turned away from me, almost like he wasn't listening. And he picked up the phone, the old dial phone, this was a long time ago, and he started to dial it. And he was talking to one of the two millionaires in town. And he said, "Hello, Morris, this is Arthur Morgan speaking. Remember a few years ago when the church said they were going to expand to the whole community, and they wanted help from the whole community. Now, there's some young people here who are trying to start a recreation center, and the church turned them down. Now, you put money into that, didn't you?" And then he waited. He said, "If you could just get me the names of the others." And as I waited, he looked at me and he said, "I think that this is ethical." And this was the old Quaker, Arthur Morgan, and it was one of the most important lessons I ever learned. So, a week later, we heard from the church, 1 o'clock in the morning. They wanted to know if I could come down to a meeting. The next morning, they had been rethinking my request. They approved the recreation center. We started a week later, and that recreation center evolved into a community center, which is going to this day.